the governor, the General Assembly, and the Kentucky Congressional Delegation on military matters. In his position as the executive director, he strives to maximize the Commonwealth's relationship with the Department of Defense, spur economic growth across the state, and improve the quality of life for service members, veterans, and their families. It's noted that General Bullard has also been very instrumental in transferring the local armory to the Boys and Girls Club here in Henderson. So thank you, General. Governor Matt Bevin appointed him as executive director of the Kentucky Commission on Military Affairs and commissioner of Kentucky State Council for Military Interstate Children's Compact Commission on 16 August 2019. General Bullard served in the military for 33 years. You beat me by one, sir. With both Air National Guard and active duty Air Force assignments. During his career, General Bullard participated in Operation Desert Shield, Provide Promise, Restore Hope, Joint Endeavor, Southern Watch, Enduring Freedom, Iraqi Freedom, and many, many more. He held multiple leadership and staff positions, including Director of Mobility Forces and Joint Air Component Coordination Element, 7th Air Force, Osan Air Base, South Korea. NATO International Security Assistance Force, Senior Airfield Authority of Kandahar Airfield, Afghanistan, which I'm sure he can speak to, and Chief of Operations for the Joint Intelligence and Operations Center, Headquarters, U.S. Central Command, MacDill Air Force Base, Florida. Most recently, General Bullard serves as the Chief of Staff for the Kentucky Air National Guard and the Deputy Director of the Joint Staff of the Kentucky National Guard. Please help me in welcoming General Bullard to the Henderson Rotary Club.
Well, thank you, everyone. And I'm very soft-spoken, so I'm going to need this microphone. But I'm also an aviator, and I tend to speak with my hands, so it'd be a little bit of a running battle. And let me get the slide back here. I want to start off with kind of a shout out to Governor Andy Beshear and his team. And Governor Matt Bevin hired me right at the end of his administration after my years of service. And he said, you know, this is probably, you're going to probably be in this job a couple of months. And I said, well, I have a great relationship with the Beshears that goes back many, many years. And frankly, I'm not the least bit worried about it. So, I can tell you that while Andy Beshear has no military background per se, he is so engaged. He's been down to Fort Knox for the change of command. He has absolutely done everything I have asked, including retaining me. But his wife, Brittany, what a hero. So we took her down to Fort Knox. She charmed absolutely everyone. And I said, you know, at Fort Campbell, they have this program, Green Beret for a Day, where you can go become a Green Beret for a day. And she's like, I'm all in. Let's do it. And so Fort Campbell, this is at Fort Campbell, I'm sorry. They came back and they said, is there anything you're afraid of doing? And she laughed. No, the answer is she is not afraid of doing anything. So it's just wonderful. I'm thrilled to have Dorsey Ridley from the governor's office here. Really good friend of mine and a tremendous asset for Kentucky over the years. And thank you, Jennifer and Alex and everyone for having me here today. I need to get back to the slide here. Let me see if I can do it myself. But Alex, maybe get you there and bring my slide back up. But I want to talk first off on what I do real quick, and then I'm going to go into the more, interesting stuff in a general way. But Kentucky plays way above its weight in the U.S. military, way above our weight. And so we're up. We're going to bring it up here. I want to go up, or actually down a couple. There was a slide as well. Actually, I don't see it here. But, well, this is a couple good slides. First off, we ranked 9th in the nation in military impact. That's Kentucky, 9th in the nation. So we have Fort Campbell, which is the hub of our contingency response, the 101st Airborne, 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment. They have a very bright future ahead. The Army is developing something called Future Vertical Lift, which will be the follow-on to the CH-47 and other rotary aircraft, and it will be first fielded at Fort Campbell. You have Fort Knox, which is basically, it's very different. If you go to Fort Campbell, you're going to see 26,000 Army soldiers and maybe 9,000 civilian personnel plus families. But if you go to Fort Knox, you're going to see 5,000 military and about 15,000 civilians. That's the HR management, the personnel management function of the Army is at Fort Knox, and they have a tremendously bright future there as well. But when you expand out, you've got the Kentucky National Guard is just a tremendous asset, and the Air National Guard has the Air National Guard record number of outstanding unit awards. They are outstanding out of Louisville, Kentucky. The Army National Guard is engaged in absolutely everything we do worldwide. If DOD is there, you're going to see members of the Kentucky Air and Army Guard there. And throughout all, since 9/11 happened, a Kentucky Guardsman has been deployed every day but 3 since September 11th, 1992. And we've had at least 1 deployed, and usually substantially more. But if you look around too, and look at Bluegrass Army Depot in Lexington, and people think of that as a home of the chemical weapons storage in America. That's where we keep them, and right now we're remediating them, basically destroying them all. They'll be all destroyed by December of 2023. Then we have 3 years to clean up the site to get it to international treaty obligations. And in December of 2026, it'll be available for whatever we want to do. It'll be completely clean. And we're right on track to do that. But what a lot of people don't know, they know that, but that's only 5% of Bluegrass Army Depot. Bluegrass Army Depot is the logistics hub for the entire United States Army east of the Mississippi. So if you're at Fort Stewart, you're at Fort Lawson, Fort Campbell, Fort Benning, all of your expeditionary efforts work through Bluegrass Army Depot. So they have a tremendous future ahead of them as well. And believe it or not, there's only 5 Army soldiers stationed there, just 5. And there's about 3,000 civilians, give or take a few. And we have to find a job for about 1,900 of them, post the chemical D-mill. And we were just awarded a contract this weekend by Department of Defense to help us do that. So another exciting thing, the largest Coast Guard station in America is in Paducah and Louisville, Coast Guard Sector Ohio Valley, responsible for the nation's inland waterways. And most people have no idea. And then if you're a James Bond fan, you like James Bond, there's something called Q. And Q is the person in James Bond, the directorate that takes care of all the special weapons for MI6 and the British. We have that in America, and it's at Bluegrass Station in Lexington, Kentucky, which was a BRAC Army facility in 1995 that was given to the Guard. We took over management of it. We turned it into a industrial park for storage. Didn't really work, wasn't dynamic. U.S. Special Operations Command came to us and said, we have some other ideas if you're willing to play ball. So starting with Governor Paul Patton and ongoing, we did a terrific job of repurposing Bluegrass Station. And now it is a 100% Department of Defense campus. And we're doing great things. And under Andy Beshear, we're hoping to put a 10,000-foot civilian runway in there and make it a dual-use military civilian airplane. You can't fly any horses into Kentucky from overseas. They have to go into Detroit or Philadelphia and get trucked in. We hope to change that. A lot of great opportunity there. There's so many great things that are going on. So when you look at what the Kentucky Commission on Military Affairs does, full-time, there's only 2 of us, myself and 1 assistant. So we have no budget, we have no authority, we manage no programs. All we do is leverage relationships. And when you're a type A person like me, and I've risen to general for a reason, and I love controlling things and managing things. And now all I can do is try to influence things. So it's a huge change, but we do it very, very well. And so as part of our commission, we have the commanding officers of every major military unit in Kentucky, and then the key members of the Beshear administration. We have, and then just key partners. And we have 5 goals. Basically, we want to ensure that Kentucky maximizes everything we have in the military. We have done that exceptionally well. We want to continue doing that, and we want to grow it with new missions. Since Governor Beshear came on board, we added U.S. Army's 5th Corps at Fort Knox, and 5th Corps is responsible for management of all U.S. Army forces in Europe. And we've added new C-130J airplanes to the Kentucky Air National Guard that are rolling off the assembly line now and will be fielded this fall. So a couple of the things, we do those types of things. So our number one goal, we have 5 goals: protect and grow DoD installations and activities. And I just kind of talked about that. Number 2, expand the economic impact of Kentucky's defense industry. So I work very closely with the chambers, both the state chamber and local chambers, such as one in Hopkinsville. We work very closely with the Kentucky Association of Manufacturers and others to try to build the defense industry and create opportunities. And we're looking right now at doing a 3-state defense manufacturing consortium between Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio. And we're getting that off the ground as we speak. We want to develop and implement the model for transitioning service members, veterans, and spouses. So we facilitate and get Department of Defense grants. We've done several $1 million worth to help find jobs for transitioning military, but also for military spouses. Have a wonderful partner between the administration and between the legislature on developing military spouse occupational licensing opportunities, and we are a leader. Kentucky is in joining occupational licensing compacts in multiple areas, and we're recognized by Department of Defense. We want to establish Kentucky as the most military-friendly state in the nation. That's hard to do because we don't have the budget of a Texas or Virginia or Florida. We're doing a lot of things right. We're short one major element of that. We do not have a military retirement income tax exemption in Kentucky. All of the states around us do. 35 states do. We do not. That's something we're trying to work hard to fix. And then communicate strategically and gain all sorts of support from anyone that we can. So, that's what we do. Basically, my job is to know things and to know people and try to bring them together and identify things. We work on strengths, weaknesses, threats, opportunities. So it's a lot of fun. And I enjoy being in the position. And this kind of just is a slide we use to talk about how it all works together. And basically, the center is the most important, to maximize, all of our opportunities and potential. So I'm going to start there, but now I'm going to go into, if I can get my computer to come up here. So this is the new technology. Instead of written notes, I do everything on my pad here. Facial recognition, looking for you. There we go. Come on. I do have a pen if I need it, but let's try this. I want to use some talking points. I normally script things out. Today I'm going to do more of a stream of consciousness and talk about some things and be available for questions at the end. And I know I've only got about 5-10 more minutes to do this. So, but first off, I want to talk about 911. We're coming up on the 20th year, and it changed my life. It changed a lot of lives, especially the people it touched immediately. My wife's best friend was an Army Air Force Reserve major, and he was doing his 2 weeks of active duty, and he ran across to the Navy side of the Pentagon that morning to run an errand and died in the crash. And those type of things, very close to us. But besides the impact on the country was phenomenal. I'm going to talk about that. And the impact on someone like me is if 911 or something like that had not happened, you would not see me here today, because I would have retired a nondescript lieutenant colonel out of the Guard. And so I'm going to talk about that. I've been a member of the military in some way, shape, or form now for like 36 years. I consider this still a member. I was a member of 3 different militaries. The military I joined in 1984 was the World War II, Korean War, Vietnam military. It was a very macho military. It was not female friendly. And it was very much of a macho world. But interestingly, I joined the active duty Air Force, and I'm interesting because I'm not a party guy. I'm not a drinker, and I don't do those sorts of things. But I was always treated exceptionally professionally and put on a fast track pretty quickly. I wound up in special operations. I could go into how that all happened, but I was part of the counter-drug wars in Colombia and Peru, Ecuador. I flew command and control for Nicaraguan Contras and worked for Oliver North, flying C-130 missions circling Nicaragua. I could tell you all kinds of stuff, but that'd be a whole nother talk. And it was a very interesting world. And I wound up, my wife, after the first Gulf War, I deployed for the first Gulf War, and my wife said, I can't do this. this is too hard. And so I left, and I wound up, she's from Louisville, so we came back, we went to Louisville, Kentucky. I'm a Northeasterner, and decided to make it home, and I wound up joining the Kentucky National Guard, and that was a very different unit. So the second military that I was part of is now the post-First Gulf War military. In the 1990s, right afterwards, you remember George H.W. Bush downsized the U.S. military. Well, this nation made a commitment in the 1990s to use the National Guard and Reserve as more of an operational force versus a reserve force. And that has a significant impact on the National Guard and Reserve. So before that, we were a reserve force. We weren't used a lot. And the National Guard I joined in 1991 was very much in that mindset. But you had a lot of people like me coming into the National Guard, and because of the downsizing, and as we were doing that, our country was moving to a smaller active military and deciding we were going to put more on the Guard and Reserve. A lot of our leadership was very uncomfortable with that, but people such as me said, we can handle this. Let us try it. We can do this. And America grudgingly moved in that direction. And we spent about 10 years of doing that. And in my first 10 years in the National Guard is more of a family thing. The National Guard is, the strength of the National Guard is that it's a family. The weakness of the National Guard is that it's a family. It's more of a strength, and if you have enlightened leadership, you can manage the weakness. But it was still very much that way. And when I came to Kentucky, I wasn't a member of the 4-0 club, the 4-0 Social Security number, and I was not considered a member of the family, and neither were many of the people that came in with me, a lot of them to fly for United Parcel Service Airlines. And so that was a real challenge for us then. And we would get together as majors and senior captains and say, if something could change to move that leadership out and give us a more professional leadership, we could do so much with the Guard and Reserve. Well, it did happen. 9/11 happened. 9/11 changed everything in the military. The military today is the third military I served with, and it is a highly professional military that has moved away from personality-based leadership and into very proud leadership. And this country came with us. So the country is so supportive of allowing the Guard to be an operational reserve. And you all have done wonderful things. You treat us fantastic. And I think we have responded in the Guard and Reserve by becoming a much more highly professional force. And so when we got tagged to deploy to Operation Iraqi Freedom, I was still kind of a nondescript lieutenant colonel. There's a lot behind it, but that leadership, that 1980s, 90s leadership, that peacetime leadership, they retired in droves. And I had my 5 lieutenant colonels above me came to me on the morning we were activated, and they said, would you hate me forever if I ran over and put in my retirement papers? Absolutely not. And I went from nobody to somebody overnight. And so did many of my folks. We completely changed the way we did things, and we went over and did a great job. And so I just want to tell you, your military today is a very professional military. It's a tired military, but a good tired. It's a very proud military, and we feel outstanding support from the American people. The difference is spectacular, especially when you think about what they went through coming back from Vietnam. But right now, then we have, I'll talk a little bit here about what happened in Afghanistan and Iraq, where that's leading. But first off, I want to stress something, and that is that the military doesn't make these decisions. Our military works for our elected leadership. So, and I've been there, trust me, I've been in the room with 4-star generals talking to the White House, and the White House says, here's what you need to talk about in your deliberations. Good luck in your deliberations. This is what your decision is going to be. And then we would go work through that and eventually come to that decision. But when you leave the room, you're 100% behind it. That's the way it works. Our military is not a military that's ever going to hold a coup. We are not built that way. This is America. We understand. We work. I get asked that a lot, believe it or not. I do a lot of speaking engagements, and I frequently get asked, when are you going to have a coup? No, we don't do that. That is not the American military of today. We follow our leaders, sometimes our leaders make mistakes because they're working in a different world than what we are, and they don't always do everything right. And, so I'm driving back. My father passed away 2 weeks ago. I was driving back from the funeral, and with my youngest son was like, well, Dad, what have we done right since World War II? What have we done right? So if you look back on the senior side, what we did after World War II was exceptional. The Marshall Plan, we rebuilt Europe, we rebuilt Japan. Have we ever done that anywhere else? And when you look at, we lost in Vietnam. We talked about it in the car with my sons, and he brought that up. We talked about, where were we? Ineffective follow through in Iraq and Afghanistan, kind of repeating the Vietnam model. We did stay in Honduras, we're still there. We did stay in Bosnia, we're still there. We did not stay in Grenada or Panama. Those are interesting. And we're talking about all of that, but we kind of lost this sense of American exceptionalism that World War II victory gave us, this American exceptionalism, and what we did in rebuilding those nations did, but we really haven't repeated that ever since. And so we lost that? And I would say not really, not within the military. We're still proud. We're still very proud, even with what happened in Afghanistan. So my concern is where a little bit from my personal perspective on where it went off the rails. And I know I only got a couple more minutes, but I want to talk about Iraq. And we went into Iraq. I spent 3.5 years in the Middle East. So I'm very familiar. But where we went wrong was, and you can see elements of this everywhere, was when Donald Rumsfeld and the administration of George W. Bush, when they disbanded the Iraqi army. You took the world's 5th largest army. You took 400,000 well-trained soldiers, and you made them your enemies. You put them out of a job and you disgraced them. That became the basis for ISIS. That is who ISIS is. When I was sitting with a bunch of senior officers, when that came on, that announcement came out, every one of us said, oh my God, that's the worst decision we've ever heard in our life. And we did nothing but validate it ever since. And then when you look at what happened in Afghanistan, trying to impose an American-style democracy onto countries that really where it doesn't fit is kind of one of the weaknesses of America, in my opinion, and in our opinion on the military. So now we move to Afghanistan. What happened there? So I wound up in 2006 and 2007. I was assigned to Afghanistan, and I was initially military advisor to the Afghan government from the Air Force side. And I worked with the Ministry of Transportation, Ministry of Hajj, Ministry of Defense, many others. And one of my first jobs was to help rebuild Afghan Airlines. And I got to be very good friends with a man named Mr. Mansouri, who had been run out by the Soviets in 1979, and had worked in the airline industry in Los Angeles. And so he sat down and he goes, Steve, you need to understand where we're at. He said, in the 1950s and 60s, Afghanistan was one of the most forward-leaning countries in Southwest Asia. Pan American Airlines built their Southwest Asia headquarters in Kandahar. That terminal is still there. It's absolutely drop-dead gorgeous. It was right by my office. In 1973, we had our first Islamic revolution, he said. That ended all Western-style education in our nation. Dead ended it. At that point, all you got is a madrasas and the reciting of the Quran. You go 74, we kind of closed the deal on the Islamic Revolution, but many people like myself were allowed to stay. We kind of functioned for about 5 years, but it kept getting more and more fundamentalist. And finally, the Russians came in 79, and they either killed everyone like me or threw us out of the country. We escaped because I escaped. He goes, so what you need to understand, this is 2006. He says, in the year 2006, we've had 33 years now where we've had no Western education in Afghanistan. This entire country is run by people trained by the Taliban, the entire nation. So for us to succeed here, you have to give us 25 to 30 years to even begin to make a difference. You've lost every person in this country over the age of 10. You have to get and we stayed already for 5 years doing nation building, provincial reconstruction teams and everything. And he said, if you do not give us that amount of time, we'll fail. And he said, because you got to get everyone under the age of 10 through the educational system. You got to get them into government, into the military, into business. How many 20-year-olds run the United States of America? How many? They don't. So we took an entire generation now for the last 20 years of kids. We trained them. The oldest of those are between 20 and 25. They don't run Afghanistan. The people who run Afghanistan today are the same people who were running it in 2001. Taliban trained tribal leaders. When you go out to the towns, you talk to the leaders. They say, "Why are you helping us?" "We want to make this a better place for your children." And they would say, "That's not your mindset. Our children, well, we don't care about our children. I mean, that's universal. Just give us what we want and leave." And so when this decision was made, the reason it failed, I saw an editorial that incensed me last week in the Boston Globe talking about Dwight Eisenhower said that if your nation's leadership is invested in your country, you're destined to fail. Well, the leadership of Afghanistan today is still the same leadership it was 20 years ago. And they're bought out, lock, stock, and barrel by the Taliban. And those children that we sold out, they're not in a position yet to make a difference. And they never will be now. They never will be. And so and for people like me who served in major roles in Afghanistan, it's just devastating. Absolutely devastating to us. So, that's where I come from on that. But I told Mr. Mansouri in the fall of 2006, when he told that to me, I said, "Sir, we're going to fail you because my country won't stay here. They will leave you." And I hated that I was right. I was right. And but where my anger is not against Joe Biden. I don't have anger against Joe Biden. My anger is against the respective administrations, starting with George W. Bush, and now 4 administrations in, because we're sitting there as military leaders in Afghanistan and Iraq going, why is no one framing this for the American people? Why is no one telling this story to the American people? Because the American governments at the national level sequentially were so scared of telling the people we have to have this long-term commitment here for it to succeed. Well, if you weren't going to do it, we should have left in 2002. We should not have stayed. And so we played this game of charades, for 20 years. A game of charades in which we never were honest with the American people at the national level. And I put that all the way back on the Bush administration. Like I said, I have no animosity toward Joe Biden. Was a long time coming. I hate to say that, but I thought I'd put it in some perspective from my perspective as someone who spent years trying to help the Afghan people and to see it only come to this. And it was just amazing. We put, I think President Biden said we put like $300 billion a year into Afghanistan. Why? Why do we do it? So I'm happy to take questions. I know I've gone too far in all of this. But I wanted to talk a little bit about that. And a lot of us are really concerned. Yes, sir.
What can you tell us about building number 7?
Building number 7?
Yeah.
So you'll have to refresh me on this.
One of the 3 buildings that fell down during 9/11 on the same day. Building number 7. Third one to go.
Yes, and I know exactly what you're talking about. From the residual damage, from everything falling down right beside it, that was crushed as well. I really don't know. That's not my expertise.
3,000 architects and engineers. And anyone who sees it will think.
I have absolutely no idea. Sorry. Sir?
What's your comments about still in Afghanistan, still not out, want to get out, that's not confidential.
Well, again, that's on our national leadership. As a military person, we do what we're told. And, part of it is there's so much potential in Afghanistan. It's such a beautiful country. And there are a lot of people there who are trying to make efforts, Peace Corps and other folks who are trying to do things. And the Afghans are very friendly people. when you get them away from the fundamentalist part. That's only about 20%. I feel for them. The shame on all of this is it happens so rapidly that it's hard to react, especially in a country such as that where you don't have the infrastructure opportunities you have here. And so all I can tell you is I'm not part of the national leadership decision-making process. I don't know why they did the things they did. And it's a horrific situation for absolutely everybody. And but what's done is done. We're going to deal with it. And so I'm in favor of whatever we can to try to modify our policies to try to help as many people as possible at this point. And that's where we have to go from here. Yes, sir.
You mentioned you're destroying all of our nasty weapons and chemicals and so on. Are our potential adversaries doing the same thing, or are we going to put ourselves in a position where they'll say, yours are all destroyed now, but guess what? We got them.
Theoretically, yes. And we do have monitors on either side. As you well know, nothing's perfect, and people are people. And our adversaries don't necessarily have the same moral standards that we have, which is a major challenge when you're dealing, when you're America, you're fighting with one hand tied behind your back. Our morality gets in our way sometimes because we do mean well. And I had the Russians and Chinese, they have no moral boundaries. They don't exist. There's a difference between Russia, China, and North Korea and Al-Qaeda, and why Al-Qaeda was an existential threat and hopefully will not gain power was, as much as North Korea, China, and Russia are amoral in our terms, they still have some morality, and none of them will ever do anything that would threaten the existence of the world because world destruction is not their goal. And so you're looking at more limited type thing, ways of playing the international game. Al-Qaeda's goal, and if you could read Arabic or go on to Al-Qaeda websites around the world, their goal is to destroy all life on Earth because that's a win. Because if you're Al-Qaeda and you destroy all life on Earth, everybody goes to heaven, God sorts it out, win-win. You're not on God's side, you lose. You are, you win. That's their goal. Fortunately, it's incredibly hard to do. And you can see that your chemical weapons can't do it. Biological weapons have too many limitations. You can't do a biological weapon that would eradicate life on Earth, to our knowledge. Not that Al-Qaeda isn't trying. That's what made Al-Qaeda an existential threat to the world versus what these other countries are. But I could go on. I'm sorry, I could talk forever on all these subjects. But but it's very interesting, and our national leadership is very well aware of those things. But my concern with Afghanistan and the Taliban in charge is, does that become a hotbed for international terrorism again? Where are we going there? And that's what we're going to have to see, and we have to be prepared to interdict that. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much. While it's kind of negative, I still feel very strongly about the American people. Very proud of the American people, and I'm incredibly proud of the American military and what they do, and first responders and so forth. People who go out of the way and literally put their lives and their health on the line because other people can't, aren't asked to do that. We are. Yes, sir.
I just want to say, close out, thank you for your service to our country, stepping out and to give us your honest professional opinion. Which we know if you was in a room or Reporters Day, dice strikes, everything else. Thank you for your service.
And I will accept that on behalf of everyone in the military. And the people who join the military, they have two sons in the military, one in the Marines, one in the Air Force. The people who join today, they expect to deploy. They expect to be part of the world. And that's this American military today, including the National Guard and Reserve. I've been to 77 countries. It's amazing. They expect to go places and be part of the world and do things, and we're everywhere. We've had Kentuckians running McMurdo Station at the Kentucky National Guard's been running McMurdo Station in Antarctica. We've been on every continent in the world. We've got, there's so many things that happen in this state that people are completely unaware of. probably a good thing. But well, we are right in the middle of that fight. Kentucky is a place so far above its weight in the military community. Very proud of that. Anything else? I'm all the way around. If anybody wants to talk to me afterwards, be happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This year, the Henderson Rotary Club, as a token of appreciation for our guests and for the time that you gave us today, are making a donation to Henderson's Volunteer and Information Center in your honor. There is a QR code to get some information about that organization, and we really appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dwight's got our half pot.
Sir, you draw one ticket and I'll read it out for everybody.
Happy to.
Thank you very much. $187.50. 771 921.
Hey.
All right.
All right.
Doc, you got to
Dr.
come draw the Queen of Spades. Let me draw one for you.
Be sure you get it.
Eight of Spades.
All right. Try again next week. Okay, we will see you back here next week, and we will end the way we started with the Rotary's four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And is it fun? Thank you all. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, dude. Thank you, sir. All right. Good to see you guys. All right.
Gotcha. Sure.
You want to step out in the hallway?
First, I hope that was okay.
It was perfect. Thank you very much.
We have one participant.
All right, thank you, sir.